everybody. Welcome to this month's Studio Sit Down. Before we get started with the regular intro, I wanted to take just a moment and let you know this is a very special Studio Sit Down. I know, they're all special in their own unique way. However, this one is our first international sit down. So it's a special treat with a great new friend that I think you're really going to enjoy. And she certainly parallels her journey along with many of you in your journey from portrait studios, portrait work into volume work. So I'll give you more in the intro of the video itself, but I just wanted to give you a heads up on that. And we find more and more people that are being able to leverage success in their portrait work into adding 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 volume jobs and then being able to grow that out to really be the financial anchor of their business. And that's exactly what Alex was able to do in her situation. But because it's something that we've been focusing on, my good friend Heather Crowder and I will be speaking on this at Imaging USA on the pre-conference side. So we hope that if you're coming to Imaging in Nashville in a couple of months, that you'll come for the pre-conference side, where we're going to spend pretty much a whole day along with Carl Bott, and we're going to go through the leveraging portrait work into volume work, and then how to actually go through that sales process. So it'll be a fun day, and we would love to have you there. Sponsored by Got Photo, but you don't have to be a Got Photo user to be there. But it's the pre-conference at Imaging USA 2023 coming up here in a couple of months. All right, so as we get rolling on the Studio Sit Down, if you would like to suggest a studio or a photographer for one of our sessions, one of our videos, or if you'd like to be one of my guests yourself, we'd love to have you do that. And you can just check the descriptions or the show notes for this video wherever you happen to be watching it, and then just click through there. It'll ask you a few questions. You can connect right directly with us, and hopefully we can make a connection and either get together with you or the person that has inspired you to have you recommend them. So that's it for now. Lead you on to the introduction, and here's our Studio Sit Down. Talk to you then. Bye. So welcome in. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it might be for you when you're watching us here. We have, as I mentioned in the lead in, just a great opportunity today to sit down with a new friend and two friends actually from a little further east in the UK. Everyone's please say hi to Alex Vanotti and Elmo. Elmo.
You're gonna say
no, he won't look this way, but there are so many similarities with our photographers around the world. And too many times we get hung up on our differences, especially in the climate that's out in the world right now. But I wanted you to see some similarities and a journey that really mirrors a lot of the journeys that I know you have gone on. So today with us, we have a photographer, an ex-BBC journalist, a foodie, a wine drinker, a London lover, and of course, a mom. She's a mother, probably first and foremost. Alex Vanotti is with us today from London. She has a wonderful winding career, having worked for 20 years as a broadcast journalist at the BBC. And it was there with her very talented group of colleagues that she learned not only the craft, but also the value of storytelling in photography. And that's kind of what has brought her forward to where she is today. As her own children started school, she began to take very engaging photos of them. And of course, that leads to pictures with classmates, with friends at events for the school. Sound familiar? And as she puts it, the light bulb just kind of flicked on at that point. She's always been into photography ever since she was a little girl, and doesn't quite know why she didn't put 2 and 2 together to start this as a career earlier on. She's always been that person at a wedding or at a party that had a camera in hand, capturing the moment, while other people were just kind of missing the opportunity. As a lot of you, um, in your journey, she had a group of colleagues and friends and family that began to encourage her after seeing her work, saw the talent, and said, this is something that you need to reach out and do as a business. This is where you belong. And that encouragement, of course, allowed her to take the plunge and to step out and join the professional world of photographers. As we talk through all of our different changes post-COVID, one of the things that I've been working with speakers on for a couple of years has been the reinvigoration of posing in our schools and our early childhood centers. It's not like the sit on the stool, hands on the lap, look and go, yes, kind of photography that are in all of those 100 years worth of yearbooks and that we see everywhere. Something that shows more personality, shows more lifestyle, shows really who the kids are at that point in their life. And as I was engaging with some colleagues on LinkedIn, I saw a grid of photos of bright, smiling children with apples and big yellow horse leg pencils and grins and giggles and happy faces. And I thought, that's exactly what we're talking about. It's something different. And so I was able to reach out and get together with Alex, and we have been able to sit down today, and we're going to go through just a few questions about her journey into volume photography and kind of get her take from the UK side of things. Since moving into the volume side is a bit of a new opportunity for her. She's been a professional photographer, but more on the portrait side and the journalistic side. Moving into the volume opportunity has been right at a year's worth of new time here. I thought it'd be a perfect opportunity to get her thoughts on the positive parts of the process and maybe the challenges that she'd like to do differently next time. So, Alex, that was a mouthful. But did I leave anything out?
No, I think we got everything there. Yes.
Awesome. Well, as we get started and everyone kind of gets to know you as a new friend, what's one thing you would like for them to learn about you and take away today?
Oh, crikey. As in photography or as in
we're just getting to know each other. So what would you like for them to know and remember about you?
Oh, okay. So if there's one funny story from my BBC days, it's that I accidentally shouted at the Duchess of Cambridge, also known as Kate Middleton. We were at Chelsea Flower Show. It was during the royal visit. We were just about to do our live for the 6 o'clock news. And we'd been assured that the area, the garden we were filming in, was going to be clear. And I heard footsteps behind me and whirled round and said, "We're about to go live on air." Came face to face with a very bemused and slightly scared looking chef, which I still cringe about every time I think about it.
Did she hush or did she leave or did she hang out?
She looked a bit shocked. I apologized profusely and they did leave the garden.
Oh. Well, you know how to clear a room. I'm impressed.
Yeah, I was like, wow, okay, that was not how I envisaged our meeting if we ever met.
You're okay as long as Elizabeth is there or King Charles is there, but when King William takes over, then you might be in trouble. So.
She's going to go. There's that troublemaker.
Yep. So awesome. Well, as you know, as we're talking here, why don't we start in that logical place? Tell us just a little bit about your life. I won't say before photography because you've had a camera in your hands since you were little, but before this type of photography, tell us about the BBC world or the things before you came to volume.
So yes, so I started at the BBC 21 years ago, and very quickly moved on to the news desk, and it was an amazing place to work, absolutely fantastic. I worked on the news desk, I was out producing, I worked on sort of breaking news stories and court cases, and then fun things, as I mentioned, like Chelsea Flower Show, but interviews, And I think my happiest time was actually on the news desk. We started a rolling news channel at the BBC shortly after I arrived. So it was all about getting the moving pictures in. But it was only a bit later that I started going out and actually sort of filmmaking and putting news packages together with the cameramen and correspondents. So I think then I started seeing a real craft in the way that some of the very talented cameramen put their pictures together. So anyway, post children,
telling a story from that single image.
Yes, just that, and like camera angles, and using shallow depth of fields to really highlight the part that you really want to focus on. So it became very interesting. And I think the other thing is I've always been an immense movie buff. My husband and I have a constant list of films that we want to watch. And I love movie soundtracks and the whole storytelling. I'm really into it. So anyway, so I had my children, and obviously we took about a gazillion photos of our first child when he was born, and used up all my camera space, all our space on our laptop, and but I wanted my photos to look really good. I really wanted my photos to look really good. So I guess I started practicing the proper DSLR photography on my son, and just trying to get proper portraits of him rather than the standard baby snaps. And pictures through the years where, as you said, you've mentioned earlier, I was always that friend at somebody's wedding who had the camera and who could be relied on for all the funny shots and the things that you don't normally focus on, not just the standing up and in a line portraits, but the little bridesmaid having a strop in the corner, that kind of thing, and funny socks and things like that. So anyway, so yes, so 20 years at the BBC. Photography was very much a hobby of mine the whole way through. And it was only, as you said, when my children started school, and I just was taking photographs all the time, everywhere I went, children's birthday parties that my children had been invited to. That I went to a couple of those, and the parents said, "We would have actually paid you for these. These are lovely." And I thought, "Oh wow, that's
very encouraging.
That's new."
That always feels good. Yeah.
And then I had a couple of parents ask how much I charged for birthday party photography, and I thought, "Wow, that's actually really that's also, I never really considered that." And in the meantime, I had very, very supportive colleagues at the BBC, more like family than colleagues, who just saw this, constant posting to Facebook of many, many children's pictures, but they were really receptive, and said, "There's something about your photos that are just different and really special." And anyway, so it was actually one of my bosses who really pushed me. And so the BBC, unfortunately, is shrinking because it's funded by the license fee payers, and there's always redundancies. But they put a shout out for volunteers for redundancy, and my boss said, "I really feel you need to do this," because not because she wanted me out of my job,
right.
But
I hope
not. Like something. But they really did say, "I think you could really make something of this." And by that point, I'd been at home for about a year with the COVID lockdown in the UK. I had been out news producing.
I think y'all went through more of an actual lockdown than most of the states here in the United States.
Yeah, it was very strange. I think at the beginning we all treated it like a bit of an adventure. There was definitely some kind of wartime British spirit thing going on, and every Thursday we'd clap for carers outside on the doorstep, and we were all kind of rallying together and helping out elderly neighbours and things like that. But actually, one of the things I realised is that, gosh, I really, really don't miss that commute into central London. And I didn't like all the COVID, the fear about the news stories. I think I realised actually It's not massively great for your mental health to be constantly subjected to bad stories. So all in all, it just was the perfect storm for me going for that voluntary redundancy and getting it. Yeah.
Well, working through, I know you were working through the PTA committee at the school, and you kind of got started in the nativity play, and that kind of led into a contact for the school itself. As you actually moved to take portraits of the school children in that kind of traditional setting, what's the biggest thing that you had to overcome in that transition, as far as moving from your street photography, the journalist side of things, the portrait side, that you do really well? What was the biggest shift to step into the volume world and take
I
those?
think for me, it's always been always lighting, just feeling like I don't actually know enough. I've got this doubt that I don't have the right equipment, and that I was nervous that, for example, I had a flash and the flash might fail, or I've now got an LED stick. The one thing I haven't actually done is gone out and bought a proper flash or a beauty box or anything like that, because it was on my list and life just got in the way.
But you found a way to do it, and I'm going to have in
yeah,
our show notes, and certainly at the post, I'll have that grid of images that people can see. They're wonderful images, and you did a very good job with them. So that's really that. I asked that because I kind of expected that as an answer, because it's a very normal answer, but it's one that obviously people can work through, and you can move forward. You had about 450 kids in this primary school and nursery school kind of combined. And so you went and did that without having to have $12,000 worth of lights behind you. And so I want people to listen to that and hear that you can get it done, right?
So one of the things I realized is, obviously natural light is your friend, but natural light is also very fickle and changes. So you can't ask to be put in one room, and you need other lights. So, for example, with the nativity play photos, we weren't allowed in the school to watch the nativity because of lockdown and COVID rules. But I went in and I took these. I got a twinkly fairy light backdrop, and turned the bokeh up and made it look really festive and sparkly and fairy-like. And the parents absolutely loved them. And I just used a table, a standard lamp, like a standing lamp, to get, then just, very long-winded, because this was very early on, but turned down the yellow, turned down the temperature when I edited the pictures. With this, I have an Instagram influencer friend in Dubai who's really supportive. She used to be a magazine editor. She does a lot of glitzy do's and bashes and things. And she said, Alex, you've got to buy this. This LED stick was fabulous. I was at a charity ball, and the photos they took of us, it was really low lighting, but they were fabulous. So she sent me the link, and this LED stick was probably about, I can't remember what the conversion rate is here, but it's about £150, which is really, for lighting, it's not expensive at all. So maybe like, I don't know, $200-300. And so that's what I use for my school photography, because in my to-do list I had buy proper studio lighting, and then the Queen died. That's what happened. The Queen died. So at the beginning of September, when the kids go back to school, I thought, right, number one on my list, get ready for the school photos, and buy your proper studio lighting so you're all set up. And then the Queen died, and I got called back to work for the BBC as a freelancer. And then I emerged from the wreckage about 2 weeks later and realized that I hadn't bought the lighting and it was too late. So I had to use this LED stick, and actually it was fine. It was actually fine. I had to do a bit of post editing to brighten things up, but
But especially for the personality posing, it it doesn't have to be as structured, and certainly not as
Yes.
flat as
Yeah.
so much of the historical school portraiture has been. Well, so when you went out and you took the photos and you engaged with the kids, obviously, you know, we talked about they had a blast. They were loving your props. They were beating up your apples. And,
Yep.
uh, she had shared that the apples were really kind of applesauce in skins by the end of the day, because they were real apples, and the children were accidentally dropping them and handling them all day long. So
There were some older kids at the end of one day who, and this poor apple was completely beaten up, and I was like, put the apple on your head. And I've got a picture of a sort of 10-year-old just looking at the apple in disgust, going, I don't really want this anywhere near my head. Thank you
Yep.
very much.
Yep. So,
Yes.
so you had a blast on picture day. And I think that's one of the things that is very important to do. You know, if you have fun with it, they have fun with it.
Mm.
And you finish up the day and you go back, and now you have to bring all of this together and present it out to the parents. So I had asked, you know, what's one thing that you've done to professionally move your business forward? And I know what you had mentioned. So share with me kind of those two things together as you put things back out to the parents. What's that one thing that you feel really kind of made it a snap, not only for you, but for the parents as well?
Oh, definitely. So before I hadn't even considered that there were online sales platforms. But then I did some searching, and I found, and I suddenly there's a UK company who comes and does everything for you. So it's not normally with the school photos, and that company does all the school photos across the UK. So I don't even know where to start with this. And then I think I saw an ad on Instagram or Facebook about Got Photo, and I was like, I'm not professional enough to have something like this. And then the more I thought about it, I thought, my goodness, 450 children, and some way of showing them the photos with a watermark and without having to edit them first. And then, so anyway, I
And to
started
get
looking seriously.
the right name on the right face, and
Oh yeah, and all that kind of, oh my goodness. And I suddenly realized what a ginormous task it would have been. And actually, what was great timing, Got Photo were exhibiting at a photographers conference near me in London. So I went along for the day. I met the chaps. I had a sort of bit of a show to see how it worked.
Mhm.
And I just, actually, this is ridiculous. Of course I need this. I can't go and shoot 450 children and then process all the requests, and that it would just take forever. So, and I thought it was completely worth it. So, so actually I
And
did the
that was
class.
unsolicited from our part. We
Yes.
do a lot with Got Photo, and the studios that I sold, the company that had the studios, we were all Got Photo studios and that kind of thing. So people know me kind of in that circle, but I did not set that answer up at all. So
No, that was absolutely, and the other thing I like about it is, I mean, I don't use it just for my volume photography.
mhm,
I use it as a place where other clients, sort of family shoots, can, or people that I've taken headshots of,
mhm,
they can view their pictures on Got Photo and download them from there. And it just feels that little bit, feels a bit more slick, a bit slicker and more polished to send across a secure link, rather than, oh,
right.
here's my Dropbox
Yeah,
folder that might not load.
yeah.
And yeah, so
Or
so yeah.
someone still was printing CDs. I was like, nobody has a computer that even runs a CD anymore. You know?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't know
Yeah,
what to do with this. I've got some
yeah,
honeymoon photos on CD. I think we went scuba diving with dolphins in
yeah,
New Zealand, and I'm like, how am I ever going to look at these pictures again?
yeah, yeah.
Yes. So Got Photo was brilliant. And the QR code, that it was very, very easy actually. You I think I definitely, one thing that I would learn is that I need an assistant for many, many purposes during these shoots. But just the fact that you can snap the QR code and
Mhm.
then just carry on with your shoot, and that's all the sorting doing. That was
Yeah,
brilliant. So
that would be good.
yeah,
Well, if you could
yeah.
just train Elmo to sort them out, if he can read the QRs and then
Yeah,
move.
he's having a little nap here
Oh,
in my
that's very
arms.
cool. He's a good boy.
Yes. So
So All right, I'm going to stop right here. I'll put my hands up so I
Okay,
can see it. That's all I've got to do, and reset
brilliant.
this. They say that they turn off at 30 minutes because if they go longer than that, then they get taxed as a video camera as well as a
Oh,
still
okay.
camera. And my main one, like I said, is being repaired. So, all right.
Okay.
All right. So in looking at it, and that was, we talked about the best thing that you've done to move your business forward. What's the worst? You know, what's the one thing that you know, a wall you ran into, or something that you did that you were like, oh man, I wish I hadn't done that.
I think maybe all new photographers have this problem, but you know, you really want to please, and I really wanted to please my clients, and I felt almost grateful that I was getting bookings. Actually, no, I wasn't almost grateful. I felt very grateful that I was getting bookings, and I wanted everything to be brilliant. So I would do a job, and I wouldn't charge enough. I would take ridiculous time editing the pictures and removing tiny pimples, or and actually spending a ridiculous amount of time on it, and then finding that these clients were then kind of taking the mick a bit and uh, not really appreciating the amount of time and effort that I'd spent. And actually, what
And you don't know
I've
how
done,
many amens you just got from the people
yeah,
watching this, because it it happens, and you're exactly right. It's
yes,
that feeling of, well, it kind of goes back to what we talked about at the very beginning, and I don't want to call it the imposter syndrome that we talk about
mm,
online, but it's kind of that,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
I really want to increase that worth to everyone
yes,
until I
yeah.
know that I got this. Yeah.
Yeah, and I had a couple of clients like that. I had and then I did some sort of free shoots for people in the school community. It was like after their baptism or their confirmation,
Mhm.
and some people are like, oh, you know, it's a real shame. My daughter's, you know, that, you know, I'm that they complained about how their daughter's face looked or something. And I thought, actually, I don't need to do this free stuff anymore. Like
Yeah. Yeah. First
I
of
will do
all,
it.
don't blame me for genetics, and second of all, I yell at
Yeah.
duchesses, so don't mess with me.
Yes, I think one other thing that's become one other thing that's become apparent, and actually this is so silly, because out of 450 pupils at the school, only two parents said, "Well, you know, it was a bit informal. We quite like the formal shot." And I was like,
Mm,
"Oh wow, okay." So I guess it's just, and rather than taking it as personal criticism, I've had to grow up a bit and think, okay, the crazy pencil waving, you know, I had kids holding the pencil like Darth Vader, like a
mhm.
lightsaber, and I
Yeah.
thought that was brilliant, and the parents thought it was brilliant, but it's not for everyone, and it just made me think,
But there will
okay,
always be one or two voices, no matter
yeah,
what it is. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I thought I maybe um going forward I do have to include something slightly more formal,
Mhm.
maybe still, you know, still with the laughing, but yeah, I don't know, because you can't do it. You can't do a quiz before you go to
Right.
school and say
Well, and you'd
which
never
one would
get
you like the
100%
most.
answers the
Yeah,
same. You know, that
exactly,
you'd always have
exactly.
someone. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think unfortunately I am still at that point in my business where I do take criticism very personally, and it's silly because I'd say 99% of my clients are just really overwhelmingly lovely about
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
work that I've done. But I think maybe in a couple of years, when the work is absolutely regular, and then I won't be so self-critical, or you
Right.
know, so but yeah, so I think
Yeah, the people that
definitely,
care, and I know you care from getting
yeah,
to know you on online here. I know you care, and so it is hard to
yeah,
put that aside. It will always
yes,
feel a
definitely,
little, yeah.
especially I think when you start, like, I'm one of those people who really, you know, I follow a lot of professional photographers on Instagram, and I follow the ones that really inspire me, the ones whose images I go, wow, how can I do that? And then I'm always trying to improve. I'm always trying to get a great photo or tweak my editing so it's a little bit more like this or like that. And so I do care. Maybe a bit too much sometimes.
Well, but the fun thing is we have new fresh faces that
Yes.
are willing to come in and do it with us. So
Yes.
but if we were going forward and that everything from here back gets wiped away. You still have your memories, you still have your knowledge, you still have your wisdom, but everything is wiped away, and you had to start over today as a volume photographer. What would you do first? What would be the first thing to get you rolling quickly?
So I think volume photography, the most bookings I've had for volume photography or photography in general has been headshots and children. So I think if you were somewhere where nobody knew your background as a photographer, you've got to start. It doesn't have to be expensive advertising, actually. I've spent a lot of money joining the local Chamber of Commerce in the area of London that I'm in, and I'm not sure that I've got any bookings from the advert that I put in. Most of the stuff that I've done has been word of mouth, and I don't have to look for my work. The only work that I've pitched was actually the job of doing the school photos, but every other gig I get is from referral. So you
or
need
social
to
media
get,
or that kind of thing.
you need to get in with parents and local business people. So it's kind of what you would do if you moved up sticks and moved to a new town. You get to know the businesses, you get to know the schools, you maybe go to a couple of Christmas fairs. So one thing I'm doing at our local church is a pop-up photograph studio in. They have a Christmas fair day with a choir and mince pies and carols and jewelry stores and stuff. And I did it last year, and it was everyone keeps saying, when are you going to do it again? And I just take a little room and I get a twinkly backdrop and 15-minute slots. And that kind of thing gets you remembered when if you take really nice pictures. I had people saying that this is the perfect Christmas present for my in-laws. I've been looking for something. I was like, wow, that's brilliant. So that kind of, I would say, for me, what has worked is focusing on the community rather than big businesses and big advertising. It's always the little businesses who talk to each other.
Because everyone's connected. This person works over here and they are the board member over here. And
and bearing in mind, I live in London, which is absolutely not small, but we have a very defined community where we live through church and school.
Right.
And that has been brilliant for sorry, almost readjusting. That has been brilliant for contacts, and I've become the person, which is what I'd set out to do, really, is the person that people think of when they want a photographer. And that's my dream, really. I kind of want to be the person in Wandsworth that people turn to when they want photos doing. So
that's that's great. Well, I as we talk about things and starting over, I know I always give people two choices, as you either grow your business or as you start over from that blank slate. Do you focus, which means follow one course until success, focusing on one thing, or do you do more of a shotgun approach where you hit a lot of different things until you see what kind of stretches out to you and to your customers? And so what is your take and opinion on that?
Absolutely the shotgun approach. Absolutely. I would grab any work and any contact that you have, and you'll find that that it comes back. For example, I did a choir shoot. They were raising money for the Ukraine in this concert. So I took my brand new zoom lens. I got some really lovely shots of them. And I've had a couple of bookings from that, even though I charged them like £100 for the shoot, because I thought all the proceeds were going towards the Ukraine. So I didn't want to take away from that. There was a couple of hours on a Saturday night, and I've now had a full-on headshots with one of the chaps who runs a company, and a historian who sings with the choir, because so that's just an example of you know, I would never have expected more work from that, but suddenly I've had 2 more bookings. And you do a family shoot, and who knows, the parents may recommend you to the school as a photographer, and you do the Christmas fairs, and you put up take headshots of friends, I take headshots of other businesses in exchange for other not necessarily financial things. You just basically want to be in the situation where
free bagels for a month.
Suddenly everyone knows who you are, and they're like, oh yeah, you've had your photo done by Alex. I need new headshots. And also being quite active on social media has helped. So I post a lot on Instagram, and I post a lot on Facebook as well, and repost it under my personal. So I have a Like by Lexi Instagram page, and then I repost it on my so that my friends and colleagues can see what's happening. So so
and I'll have links to several of those in the show notes so that people can go check it out and say hi. But I think it's really cool if they have the opportunity to see some of the work that I've seen, and some of the things you do, as you get to know London, and you go through and you look. And I know it's so interconnected, and if you do it with intention and you say, okay, I'm going to do this, and as you take those contacts out of that, and like you say, have things at your Santa or Christmas shoot that lead people to shooting their school or their early childhood center or those kinds of things, it can snowball pretty quickly sometimes, and it just takes that one connection. So
absolutely.
awesome.
Yes.
So I know you've got to go pick up the bright smiling faces, so
I do.
we are kind of wrapping up here. Any last words of wisdom or thoughts that you'd like to leave our members?
Oh goodness. Just the thing I probably need to tell myself is just have confidence in yourself, and keep striving for the better photo. And that's what I do. And don't ask children to smile, because they will look like Chandler Bing on Friends.
Yes.
You've got to catch them mid laugh. You've got to make them laugh. You've got to be the children's entertainer at a party for the length of that exhausting day, but it is worth it, because a laugh is so much better than a smile.
Than a cheesy smile.
Yeah, and
absolutely.
And teeth, and gaps, and like Richter's faces. It's that's what I absolutely don't want. So
awesome.
Yes.
Well, we'll have some things that they can get to know you a little bit more, and we hope to see you in and around the membership. And so thank you again for your time today, and anything that we can ever do to help, we're always here as well. So
brilliant. Thank you so much.
Bye, Elmo.
Elmo, say goodbye. Okay.